At this hour, I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The temporary protected status for about 500,000 Haitian migrants living in the United States will come to an end in August, according to the Department of Homeland Security. This means they will lose their work permits and will be eligible for deportation. Some of those migrants came into the country illegally, and others were brought into the U.S. through Biden-era programs. Biden extended the temporary legal status for hundreds of thousands of Haitians in June of last year, something that was rescinded by DHS Secretary Christina Newsom. In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security said Biden and former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas attempted to tie the hands of the Trump administration by extending Haiti's temporary protected status by 18 months, far longer than justified or necessary. We are returning integrity to the TPS system, which has been abused and exploited by illegal aliens for decades. President Trump and Secretary Newsom are returning TPS to its original status, temporary. Earlier this month, Trump announced that TPS would also end for Venezuelans. However, that decision is being challenged in court. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is asking the federal government to give him $40 billion to help Los Angeles recover from the devastating fires that ripped through tens of thousands of acres, destroying thousands of homes along the way. But many are pointing out that while Newsom is asking for taxpayers across the nation to pay for the wildfire recovery, he's spending billions in California on illegal migrants. In fact, according to a recent report, the state of California is now paying $9.5 billion a year on free health care for illegal migrants and spent around $22 billion on benefits and services for illegal migrants in 2022 alone. In addition, Newsom recently approved $50 million to protect illegal migrants from deportation and fight President Donald Trump in court in an effort to, quote, Trump-proof the Golden State. California's Legislative Analysis Office updated their estimate for the state's 2024-25 budget, saying that the state will have a deficit of $73 billion, which is $35 billion more than Newsom's original estimate of a $38 billion deficit. NBC is having to shell out $30 million after being sued by a Georgia gynecologist who filed a lawsuit over coverage asserting that he performed mass hysterectomies on female migrants at an Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility. The stories were aired on MSNBC on shows hosted by opinionated personalities Nicole Wallace, Chris Hayes, and Rachel Maddow. U.S. District Judge Lisa Godbee Wood ruled in June that, quote, the undisputed evidence establishes that multiple NBC statements are false. She found that there were no mass hysterectomies or high numbers of hysterectomies at the facility, and that Dr. Mahendra Amin, the plaintiff in the case, had performed only 2 hysterectomies on female detainees, and that he was not a, quote, uterus collector, as MSNBC claimed that he was. The judge noted that the network was not protected by the fact that MSNBC hosts were attributing their statements to a source because their source was a coalition of progressive advocacy groups. Amin had sued for $10 million in compensatory damages and $20 million in punitive damages.
Please welcome U.S. Border Czar Tom Homan.
Border Czar Tom Homan taking the stage at CPAC over the weekend, sending a strong message to criminal illegal migrants, saying they would all be arrested and warning migrant terror groups that they will be wiped off the face of the earth. But first, he opened his remarks by addressing the media.
The media in the back room, I'm sure I'll be reading a lot of hit pieces on me tomorrow. I don't give what you think about me.
Homan said that the number of illegal migrant gotaways under President Donald Trump is down by 95%.
The Biden administration took the most secure border in my lifetime and unsecured it on purpose, right? I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president I ever worked for took steps to secure the border. Joe Biden's the first president in history of the nation who came into office and unsecured the border on purpose.
The Border Czar saying that in 2023, about 1,800 illegal migrants crossed the border each day with a high of 11,000. But recently, that number is down to less than 50 a day. He said during Trump's first month in the Oval Office, ICE arrested 21,000 illegal migrants and warned anyone who tries to get in the way of the mass deportations better watch out. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, is saying that the $100 billion that was sent to his country from American taxpayers was given to him as a grant and not a loan, so he shouldn't have to pay it back. Speaking at a forum of government officials in Kiev on the 3-year anniversary of the war with Russia, Zelenskyy said he received $100 billion, but he doesn't recognize that money as a debt because he said he agreed with Joe Biden that it was a grant. Zelenskyy also saying that they need to sign an agreement that will be a win-win for both the U.S. and Ukraine, and that he would be ready to give up the presidency if it meant lasting peace for his country, but only if Ukraine became part of NATO. His remarks come after both President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin said that elections need to be held in Ukraine, something that isn't an option during martial law. President Donald Trump back on the stage at CPAC delivering the keynote address where he declared that the Republican Party is now the proud voice of everyday Americans and the party of common sense.
We're rescuing the Americans whose jobs have been stolen, whose wages have been robbed, and whose way of life has been absolutely destroyed. And under the Trump administration, our country will not be turned into a dumping ground. We're not going to do it. We're going to have a great country again. It's going to happen soon.
The president pointing out the team of all-star warriors, patriots, and visionaries that have already been confirmed and are getting right to work, putting the America First agenda into action.
The fraudsters, liars, cheaters, globalists, and deep state bureaucrats are being sent packing. The illegal alien criminals are being sent home. We're draining the swamp and we're restoring government by the people, for the people.
He also detailed what prompted him to run for president.
Watching these people come in from jails and mental institutions and the worst criminals in the street, gang members being dropped off in buses and bussed into our country, I couldn't stand it. So I said, I'm going to run for president again.
The Pentagon is the latest agency to announce it's cleaning house, announcing that it will fire 5,400 civilian employees this week and potentially tens of thousands more. The mass terminations are part of President Donald Trump's plan to cut spending and the size of the federal government. This is just the first round, of which will equal 5% to 8% of the workforce and will be followed up with a hiring freeze. Thousands of employees at other federal agencies have been terminated in recent weeks, with tens of thousands more deciding to take President Donald Trump up on his generous buyout offer. In a statement, a spokesperson for the Department of Defense said, "We expect approximately 5,400 probationary workers will be released as part of this initial effort, after which we will implement a hiring freeze while we conduct a further analysis of our personal needs." As the secretary made clear, it is simply not in the public interest to retain individuals whose contributions are not mission critical. American Airlines says one of its flights from New York to the Indian capital, New Delhi, landed safely in Rome on Sunday afternoon after it was diverted because of an alleged bomb threat, which later proved to be non-credible. The airplane was escorted by fighter jets as a precaution. The airline said that Flight 292 was inspected by law enforcement after landing at Leonardo da Vinci's International Airport and cleared to redepart. It didn't clarify the cause of the security concern, but added an inspection was required by protocol before the flight could land in New Delhi. 2 police officers were shot and killed while they were laying defenseless on the ground after a traffic stop. It happened in Virginia Beach on Friday night. 25-year-old Cameron Gervin and 30-year-old Christopher Reese made a late-night traffic stop for expired tags. When the person driving the vehicle, John McCoy III, got combative, they asked him to get out of the car. He refused. When he finally did, he started a physical altercation with the officers, pulled out a gun from his pocket, and shot both men. While they were lying on the ground, he shot them again. Gervin and Reese both died at hospitals after the shooting, according to the Virginia Beach police chief.
2 heroes that went to work last night and didn't make it home. 2 heroes that paid the ultimate price for our society.
The subject was found in a shed near the initial scene with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. A video has been making its rounds on social media showing the governor of Maine, Janet Mills, dancing on stage at a Halloween drag show in Portland, Maine. The resurfaced footage popped up after President Donald Trump and Mills got into a heated back and forth on live TV over the governor's refusal to comply with Trump's executive order banning men from women's sports.
Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. See you in court. Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. and enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
The United States has given $4.4 billion to Haiti since 2010 to help them recover from the earthquake. But according to a new report, billions of dollars in contracts that were meant to help with recovery and humanitarian efforts were given to D.C. firms. Those firms pocketed 56% of the contracts, with those in Haiti only getting 2%, and most of that money was spent on administrative fees. In addition, according to the report, the Red Cross raised $500 million for their Haiti recovery efforts, promising to build 130,000 people homes. However, they only managed to build 6 in the last 15 years. A review of the organizations was started in an effort to track down the money and how it was spent. However, of the 196 NGOs who were contacted, only 8 responded and could explain where some of the money went. Of the $1.4 billion they reported receiving, they could only explain how $730 million was spent. This is the latest in a long line of organizations who can't explain how hundreds of millions of dollars were spent after Elon Musk and Doge started auditing where American taxpayer dollars are going.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina, Aguayo, Salem News Channel.